Across the African savannah, the dangerous predators step again and again into a battle for survival. When the war between lion versus python breaks open, who will be the one to lose? The king of the savannah or Africa's deadliest snake? On the savannah, every conflict begins with a single reason. The dry season. The grass falls lower week by week, and the impala herd has just given birth. The grassland turns into a nursery. A young impala weighs around 20 kilograms. Just the right size for a python, and just enough for one meal for a lion pride. Two hunters that share nothing at all, yet live on the same species. In this land, the impala is the common currency, and a grown impala can hear a single slip through the grass. So here, every hunt has to begin in silence. A lion pride crosses the grass. The cubs stop, curious about the thing lying still among the dry stems. A reptile with no legs. The cubs do not understand why their mother held them back. This species can barely see anything clearly, but the tongue samples scent, and the brain builds two streams of signal: distance and direction. Once it is close enough, the strike takes only 50,000ths of a second, with an acceleration 30 times gravity. Everything is over before the impala herd can register what took it. The prey weighs 20 kilograms. It is swallowing something in its own weight class. The skin stretches past 5 times its normal girth, until it is no longer skin, but a bag printed with the shape of the prey. Metabolism climbs 44 times. The heart swells another 40%. The body burns itself to digest. On the other side of the same grassland, power is organized in a completely different way. Most of the hunting for a lion pride is carried by the females. And out of 10 stalks, only about 2 bring food home. The other 8 are distance walked for nothing. Fading light is no friend to human vision, but it plays right into the lion pride's advantage. As darkness falls, the visual edge changes hands. The first step of a hunt isn't rushing in. It's making the choice. In an entire herd, the one trailing behind is the only one worth taking a shot on. The pride doesn't move in from just one direction. One half stays right in plain sight of the target. The other half loops around to the side it can't turn toward in time. A Cape buffalo weighs several times more than a lioness. Its strength lies nowhere else but in its sheer weight. So bringing it down isn't about a single pounce. It takes strength in numbers. Once everything is wrapped up, the cubs are finally called in. Not to eat first, to observe. This is how a generation learns the ropes, and something a python will never have. But that lesson comes at a cost. To teach it, the entire pride must leave their resting place. The longer the dry season runs, the further the prey drifts, and the further those females have to go, the later they return. Each time, fate opens a window. Inside that window, the only protection the cubs have is not being found. But the grass is falling lower. The same dry season that pushed the females out is taking away the cover of the cubs left behind. In the Serengeti, only about 37% of lion cubs reach a first birthday, and some other estimates run harsher still. For every 3 born here, only a little more than 1 sees the next dry season. And this dry season is not over yet. At the same hour, on the other side, a python mother. For 3 months, she stays coiled around the clutch and eats nothing. Every day, she grows a little weaker, and her own defense grows a little thinner. That clutch holds more than 30 eggs, each one close to the weight of a billiard ball. She cannot take a large meal, and she cannot leave the hollow for long while the eggs need her heat. The African rock python is one of very few snakes that stays to guard a clutch. Instead of laying and leaving, the price of staying is 90 days of hunger. 2 mothers, 2 strategies. One gambles with the hours away from her cubs. The other gambles with her own body. So, what makes a species with no venom willing to enter that gamble? On this continent, there are species that bring prey down with chemistry. The black mamba does not hold the strongest venom. Its strength is speed and reach. The gaboon viper carries the longest fangs of any snake and the largest venom load per bite, yet it barely moves at all. It wins by camouflage. Speed, camouflage, and force. The African rock python takes the third road, the road that needs no drop of chemistry. This one measures under 3.5 meters long. For its species, that doesn't even scratch the surface. They can reach up to 6 meters. And this is the largest snake in Africa. Not a single drop of venom, yet its teeth curve backward toward the inside. The more the target struggles, the deeper those teeth dig in along that single direction. The body coils hold tight while the teeth pull. That is why a python doesn't need to let go to swallow. It maintains its grip while drawing the target inside, bit by bit. The light fades, and with it, the advantage of the eye. There is a movement in the grass. The python does not withdraw. And a cub has no way out of the coil by stealth. The cubs got out, but one detail has to be said plainly. A lion cub at that age sits exactly inside the workable prey weight of a grown African rock python. Which means what just happened was not defense, it was a hunt. The warning from the lioness at the start of this film was never excess caution. So if a species dares to target the young of an apex predator, then when the two meet over the same prey, which one gives way? If you have ever seen a large python in the wild, which species do you think it targets the young of? The water pulls back to one point, and every trail in this land leads to exactly that point. As the water narrows, both hunters are pressed onto the same strip of ground, looking for the same prey. From that moment, their meeting is no longer chance. The impala have to drink every day, so they are forced onto routes that can be predicted. That turns the waterline into the most worthwhile place in the region. Worthwhile for a species that can lie still, and worthwhile for those used to following a track. After a large meal, the body of the python commits almost every resource to digestion. It cannot travel far, and for many days it does not travel at all. The whole life of a grown python, there is exactly one stretch of time when it can be taken. And it walks into that stretch itself every time it eats. A 20-kilogram meal needs up to 2 weeks to finish digesting. 2 weeks is a very long stretch for a body that cannot withdraw. For the lion, taking a meal from someone else is a long recorded strategy, not an accident. Everything that carries scent in the bush travels with the wind. Another python, another bend of the river, and an ambush that has just succeeded. This is the most vulnerable minute in the life of a python. And there is a lioness here. The coil is built to travel one direction only. Every pull from outside just closes it further. What let it beat the impala is what holds it in place at the moment it most needs to leave. It cannot run from a lion. Neither side is removed. The python lives, but it loses the whole ambush and many weeks of getting its strength back. What just happened to the python is no exception. It is standard behavior. Lions consider another's meal fair game far more often than people think. Because an injured leopard doesn't just lose a meal. For a leopard, the rule is simple. Hear a lion coming, walk away from the meal. It could reach the end of the line before the dry season is over. But that cycle doesn't end with the lions. Across this land, another species follows in those exact footsteps and moves in even greater numbers. A spotted hyena doesn't outmatch a male lion in strength, but they just need to bring greater numbers, make more noise, and play the long game. Across the exact same stretch of grass, a meal rarely changes hands just once. A python wraps up its target. A lion claims it right out of that squeeze. And a clan of spotted hyenas just waits for the lions to run out of steam. Out here, food doesn't belong to the one that brings down the target. It belongs to whoever can hold on to it the longest. And this is where the law of this land stands out more clearly than any number. Every weapon here opens a window that it cannot close by itself. From May to October, rainfall in the valley drops to nearly zero. Isolated waterholes dry up first, forcing every species to converge upon the single remaining stretch of the river. The frequency of encounters between predator and prey climbs steadily. And every encounter unfolds within plain sight of a third party. Midday temperatures in the valley can reach 45 degrees Celsius. So most activity concentrates at the break and close of day. Under those conditions, a solitary lion loses its ultimate weapon, the element of surprise. This is why certain adult male lions, normally direct rivals, choose to join forces through the dry season. Yet an alliance holds true value only when it aims for what a single individual could never reach. An adult hippo weighs around 3 tons, over 10 times more than a male lion. Its skin measures up to 6 centimeters thick along the back and shoulders, enough to disperse the force of almost any incoming blow. Hippos do not have a taste for meat, yet the hippo is responsible for more fatal incidents than any other large mammal in Africa. A hippo does not need to hunt to be formidable. It simply needs to defend the stretch of water it claims as its own. A group of hippos can hold a river segment for generations. And those borders are maintained through relentless friction. Because of this, across most of the Savannah ecosystem, hippos are virtually off the menu for any creature. The strength of an alliance does not lie in total weight, but in ensuring their target cannot strike back at them all at once. A hippo away from the water for too long forfeits its greatest advantage. On land, that thick skin turns into a burden rather than a suit of armor. In most lion prides, adult male lions always feed first and dine alone. A shared meal among 4 males is therefore a rare exception, and it occurs only when the reward is vast enough so no one has to fight over the prize. Yet, does control over this waterway now belong to the lions, or does it still rest with the giant that just fell on the far bank? The answer will reveal itself later, along a different bend of the river, in a scenario turned completely upside down. The wetlands and tributaries of the Colombian Amazon stretch out under the dry season sun from June through October. As the water level drops, the pools left behind become the densest concentration of life in the wetland. And also the fiercest competition of the year. Mid-afternoon, in the very stretch of river the jaguar patrols. The water suddenly erupts into violent bubbles. In under a minute, 100 red-bellied piranhas close in. This scene repeats along this stretch of river almost every dry season, when water levels drop and fish crowd into the last remaining pools. That is the price of living beside a river that nourishes and threatens everything that comes near it. Red-bellied piranhas rarely attack on their own initiative, a healthy creature swimming normally. But once that moment arrives, the speed of the shoal in action is matched by nothing else in this stretch of river. This stretch of river is not somewhere piranhas just happened to pass through that day. The sheer density of prey makes it the most reliable larder in the whole wetland. Year after year, and a reliable larder always draws in other predators, even ones that would rather never cross paths. This is one of the most powerful birds of prey on Earth, with hind talons nearly as long as a bear's claws. Her target is a 3-toed sloth. In the wild, females of this species are considerably larger than males, and it's the females who take on most of the heaviest hunts in the territory. With legs as strong as a small child's, the crushing grip of her talons is enough to shatter bone before the prey can even struggle. At the highest level of this kingdom, the rules are just as merciless as they are in the water. The harpy eagle doesn't need to fly fast. For the creatures living in the Amazon canopy, that's a constant threat from the sky. But beneath those murky waters, the next story is already waiting. Crueler, more unpredictable. This world is split into 3 levels: water, land, and canopy. Most predators command only a single level, not the jaguar. Its unusually broad paws work almost like natural paddles. While most cats treat water as an enemy, a black caiman nearly 4 meters long has just snapped up a red-bellied piranha, the reward for a morning's patrol along the river. It hasn't even finished swallowing when the water behind it ripples in a way that feels entirely different. For most other big cats, a caiman nearly 4 meters long would be too reckless a target to even attempt. Silence, striking speed, and the element of surprise are what actually decide. The jaguar doesn't bother giving chase. A small piranha, for a few seconds of stalking, isn't a resounding victory, but it's still a profit, however small, in a survival equation that runs all day long. The caiman learns a costly lesson in those few brief seconds. On this stretch of river, having just caught prey doesn't mean being safe. It can still become someone else's prey in the very moment it believes it has won. Harsh midday sun blankets the wetland. This is the hour when most warm-blooded animals seek shade to rest. But the wetland's cold-blooded hunters are at their most active. The green anaconda, sometimes weighing more than 200 kilograms, is the undisputed ruler of the deep water. This is the heaviest snake alive on Earth. No venom, no need for long fangs. When it constricts its prey, it generates pressure of around 60 newtons per square centimeter, enough to stop a heart from pumping blood in mere seconds. This is the second rival of the wetlands' triple kingdom. Unlike the jaguar, it doesn't need speed or climbing. Just absolute patience and one perfectly timed strike. While the jaguar conquers all three levels with muscle and speed, the green anaconda stays loyal to one tactic alone: vanishing almost completely beneath the murky water, leaving only its nostrils above the surface and waiting. Deep in the leaf litter, at the wetland's edge, a spot of brilliant yellow creeps slowly along. The golden poison frog is barely the length of a finger joint, but the toxin on its skin is enough to kill 10 grown adults. Its brilliant color isn't for show. It's a warning that every predator in this wetland, with no need to test it firsthand. In biology, this is called warning coloration. Instead of hiding, this animal advertises its position with the brightest color it can manage, betting that no predator will want to try it once and pay with its life. Having watched the Triple Kingdom form around the capybara herd, the jaguar decides not to join that crowded chase. Patiently, it slips away from the area, choosing a different approach. Trusting the instinct that the best opportunity often lies where competition is thinnest. While the jaguar leaves the water's edge to find another angle, one capybara strays from the herd to graze on softer grass farther off. Exactly the mistake the whole herd always tries to avoid. The green anaconda has been waiting for exactly this moment. The rest of the capybara herd keeps grazing not far away, with no idea that one of their own has just vanished. This is the wetlands' cold law. The herd doesn't stop to grieve. Only the survivors get the chance to pass the lesson on to the next generation. For the capybara left behind, keeping their distance from the soft grass where they lost one of their own becomes an instant lesson, even though none of them truly learn it in any conscious sense. This is natural selection playing out in real time. Individuals that tend to stay close to the herd survive longer, while those that tend to wander off gradually get weeded out of the gene pool generation after generation. In the race for shared prey, speed sometimes matters more than raw strength. The green anaconda has just proven it doesn't need the jaguar to leave before it acts. In this triple kingdom, every predator runs on its own schedule, and no one waits for anyone. The wetland keeps running just as fiercely, even after its most powerful hunter has moved on in search of another opportunity. In the canopy beyond, a spider monkey launches through the branches at speeds close to 50 kilometers an hour, trying to escape a harpy eagle circling above the treetops. With arms longer than its own body and the tail that grips like a fifth limb, the spider monkey is considered one of the fastest primates moving through the Amazon canopy. That speed is enough to outrun most enemies, in the air and on the ground alike. The whole troop moves in a loose formation, each one choosing its own path through the branches. Making it hard for an aerial predator like the harpy eagle to predict any single one's next move. It's a defense built on controlled chaos, the complete opposite of the tight formation the giant otter will use later that same day. But the real danger isn't coming from above. The jaguar has already climbed a trunk below, one of the very few big cats capable of climbing with such skill. It cuts across the prey's path. No need to give chase. Just the right place at the right time. For most big cats in the world, the canopy is where prey can escape. For the jaguar, it's just another level of the same territory. Broad claws and exceptionally powerful shoulders let it grip the bark, climbing straight up on raw strength instead of leaping the way a leopard would. With a troop of howler monkeys nearby, the jaguar's tactic is something else entirely. The howler monkeys roar is one of the farthest carrying animal sounds in the Americas. Able to travel for kilometers through dense canopy. But a roar can only warn of danger. It cannot stop something that has already closed in. Close enough to strike. The illusion of safety in the canopy just collapsed in seconds. There is no level of this Colombian wilderness the jaguar cannot reach. Not the water, not the ground, not even the highest reaches of the canopy. This is precisely what sets the jaguar apart from every other predator in this triple kingdom. For a spider monkey or a three-toed sloth, climbing high once meant safety across millions of years of evolution. But against a predator that can follow them all the way to the highest branch, that old rule of survival is no longer one they can trust. A white-throated toucan uses its enormous bill to regulate body heat, releasing warmth through the thin network of blood vessels beneath its keratin sheath. A scarlet macaw cracks open a hard seed with a bite force of around 2,000 newtons, enough to crush something most other birds would never even attempt to touch. The scarlet macaw's vivid plumage, red, yellow, and blue woven together, is how they recognize one another among the 1,000 shades of green in the canopy. A visual language all their own, one this bird has refined over millions of years, living high in the Amazon canopy. The jaguar satisfies its hunger with the monkey, but the appetite hasn't completely faded. It begins its descent, leaving the canopy behind. Returning to solid ground, where a bigger decision awaits. The sun has tilted low toward the horizon as the jaguar leaves the canopy, returning to ground it knows well. A whole long day crossing the kingdom's 3 levels still hasn't earned it a proper meal, and hunger has now become an order, not a choice. From the morning's dropped piranha to the afternoon's 2 encounters in the canopy, the jaguar has burned through more energy than it has taken in. This is the equation every apex predator must face. The bigger the body, the more calories it takes just to keep the muscle running. And a string of failures in a single day can push the whole body into a state of alarm. Unlike herbivores that can graze whenever they please, an apex predator lives by a rhythm, of all or nothing. A long day patrolling all 3 levels of the kingdom can end with an empty stomach, and no reward is guaranteed just because it tried the hardest. Along a quiet stretch of wetland, a family of giant otters rests after a long morning of fishing. This is the largest otter species in the world, growing to nearly 2 meters long, and they live in tightly bonded groups that defend their territory together. A black caiman moves closer, perhaps underestimating what awaits it. But the giant otters don't flee. The whole group sounds the alarm together, forming a surrounding wall, each one charging in from a different direction, all at once. For a lone hunter like the caiman, facing such a tightly organized collective is an entirely different problem than stalking a single, isolated prey. This social structure didn't form overnight. A giant otter family typically consists of a breeding pair and several generations of offspring that stay together, sharing the work of hunting, standing guard, and raising the newest pups. It's this years-long bond that produces the instant coordination the black caiman is facing right now. This otter species carries a jaw with powerfully developed molars, strong enough to crack the shell of the hardest scaled fish in the region. When an entire family bares its teeth and growls together, even a confident predator like the black caiman has to recalculate the odds. Field studies have recorded a similar standoff lasting nearly an hour before the caiman was forced to retreat in defeat. Families with young to protect become far more aggressive and watchful than usual. The jaguar watches the whole scene from the brush nearby, its empty stomach quietly running the numbers. After a long day crossing all 3 levels of the kingdom, the jaguar's hunger is still unresolved, and the sun keeps sinking toward the horizon. This ability to weigh risk is exactly what separates an apex predator from a reckless one. Not every prey animal in sight is worth chasing, and one wrong decision could cost the jaguar nothing less than its life. Even while standing at the top of all 3 levels of the kingdom. Every retreat is not a failure, but a survival calculation repeated thousands of times across generations of jaguars before it. That patience comes at a cost. A body weighing over 50 kilograms needs an enormous amount of energy just to sustain itself. And every hour that passes without a meal is another hour spent burning through its own reserves. This is why, even ruling all 3 levels of the kingdom, the jaguar cannot afford to get one more choice wrong. Not tonight. It returns at midday the following day. By now, the hunger has reached its peak, and it changes the rules of the game. An adult caiman is nearly untouchable in a head-on confrontation. The bony plated skin along its back and belly is thick enough to withstand most ordinary attacks. But there is one single point. Somewhere on that whole body that isn't protected at all. Choose wisely, jaguar. Unlike lions or tigers, which usually go for the throat, the jaguar is the only big cat that regularly bites straight through the skull. Driving its canines directly into the brain for an instant kill. Its short jaw and usually broad cheekbones generate maximum bite leverage right at the tip of the canine. Enough force to punch through the thickest bone in nature. This technique is believed to have evolved specifically to deal with prey armored, like caimans and turtles, both common items on the jaguar's menu. Prey that is nearly untouchable using the standard throat bite, employed by every other big cat on the planet. This is the direct consequence of living in a kingdom with 3 levels instead of just 1. A lion on the African savannah only needs to master a single killing technique for most of the prey around it. The jaguar, living between water, land, and canopy, has been forced to develop a hunting skill set more diverse than any other big cats. And the skull-piercing bite is the clearest proof of it. The giant otter family, which held its ground against a caiman just minutes ago, carries on with life along a quieter stretch of river upstream. Not every survival story in this wetland ends in death. Sometimes the biggest reward is simply living one more day, with the whole family still intact. The wetland's triple kingdom Night falls over the Colombian Amazon wetland, slowly, never all at once. The day's last light drains from the water surface, giving way to a chorus of insects and frogs rising from every layer of vegetation. For the jaguar, the end of a day doesn't mean the fight for the throne has stopped. Tonight and every night after, the cycle of patrolling, hunting, and defending territory will begin again, with no permanent pause for the one who rules the food chain. The 3 ecological layers the jaguar has just crossed today, from the water surface to the top of the canopy, are exactly why this land ranks among the most biologically rich places on the planet. No medal is handed out for a successful day of patrolling. No long rest awaits the ruler of the food chain. The throne of this Colombian Amazon wetland runs on a single law, harsh but fair. Power only lasts as long as it's proven, every day, across all 3 layers at once. But not every piece of news about this species is a warning. On a ranch in Colombia's Llanos region, thanks to a conservation partnership with the organization Pantharea that began in 2013, including electric fencing around calving areas and agreements with 19 neighboring ranches, the jaguar population there grew from 5 individuals in 2014 to 28 in 2022. Colombia is now home to roughly 22% of the jaguars left on Earth. But that success remains fragile. And it depends on what happens beyond the borders of a single ranch. This partnership model proves that conservation doesn't have to work against human livelihoods. When the interests of both sides are balanced, ranches and wild jaguar populations can thrive together on the same land. The corridors linking jaguar populations scattered across Colombia are steadily narrowing. The northern corridor connecting Darien to Catatumbo, the Andes-Orinoquia corridor, the biodiversity-rich region west of the Andes along the Pacific, and the spreading arc of deforestation in the Amazon, all face direct pressure from logging. Of the 3 encounters you just watched, which moment surprised you the most? Leave your answer in the comments below. The jaguar's throne still stands, at least until tomorrow. But the future of the entire species, across all of Colombia, depends on whether the forest corridors remain intact. Today's story is just one day among thousands. The jaguar has lived and continues to live across the South American continent. From the wetlands of Colombia to the Amazon rainforest of Brazil. If you want to keep exploring other wild kingdoms of South America, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next episode. The ocean has never given anything away for free. And Bermuda knows that better than anyone. Alone in the North Atlantic, the island sits exposed right on the corridor where the fiercest storms travel. Yet, those very blows, combined with the tough geological foundation beneath it, make Bermuda's ability to hold its ground almost hard to believe. In an endless stretch of deep blue Atlantic, this island keeps stories you would struggle to find anywhere else. Horseshoe Bay, Bermuda's most iconic beach, has long been known for its one-of-a-kind pink sand. For a long time, people were convinced that the pink color came from fragments of red coral washed up from the seafloor. But the real explanation is far more interesting than that. What creates the pink is actually a tiny marine organism. They wear a red shell and cling to the coral reefs. Whenever parrotfish swallow these creatures, their powerful jaws grind the hard shells. Into millions of tiny fragments, which over time blend into the white sand, producing the soft pink tone unique to Bermuda's beaches. But the strange things about Bermuda do not stop at the surface. More than 300 shipwrecks still lie on the seabed around the island, making this one of the most sought-after wreck diving destinations on the planet.
In the past, reefs hidden just beneath the surface,
combined with the island sitting across busy shipping routes, meant plenty of ships never made it through these waters intact. Today, those ships whose journeys were cut short have become part of the marine ecosystem, where coral takes hold and builds life and sea creatures find a new home. If the ocean holds Bermuda's history offshore, then underground, the island hides a completely different world. Stepping into Crystal Cave, every footstep takes visitors further from the sunlight into a space shaped by the patience of nature. Around 30,000 years ago, during the last ice age, rainwater quietly seeped through the limestone, carrying minerals down to slowly build. Those shimmering white formations, today glittering crystals, ancient stone columns, and an underground lake, as clear as glass, reflecting the light, have turned this place into a scene that feels lifted from a fairy tale. From a distance, Bermuda looks like a small paradise, tacked into the middle of the Atlantic, with crystal clear water and that unmistakable white limestone shoreline. But hidden behind that calm beauty is an entire geological journey that shaped this island. Across tens of millions of years. The truth is, Bermuda was not a step of land that simply rose out of the sea. It is the remaining tip of an enormous volcano, now sunk beneath the seabed. Below the North Atlantic, formed by a geological hotspot around 30 to 35 million years ago. Then that volcano gradually went quiet, and the summit that was left was worn down endlessly by ocean wind and waves over an incredibly long stretch of time. Coral grew little by little around that ancient volcanic base, mixing with the shells of marine creatures, and layer upon layer of sediment, eventually building a limestone cap nearly 60 meters thick, covering the island we see today. The thing is, that gift from the ancient ocean came with a brutal geological curse, strong enough to break every human attempt to hold on, because it is built almost entirely from porous, spongy limestone. Bermuda cannot retain any natural fresh water on its surface. And yet people still chose to stay. Together they tamed this lonely rock, turning a place with no resources at all into one of the wealthiest and most luxurious island destinations on Earth. To understand why Bermuda is so wealthy, you first have to look at the waters wrapped around the island. Bermuda sits inside the Sargasso Sea, the only sea in the world with no land boundaries, shaped instead by 4 major ocean currents circling endlessly around it. The most important is the Gulf Stream, the current that carries warm tropical water north, keeping the air in Bermuda noticeably warmer than other places at the same latitude. Thanks to that rare advantage, the island holds an extraordinary ecosystem. Water so clear you can see down to 60 meters, and coral reefs still thriving farther north than anywhere else in the world. This is Bermuda, a solitary rock sitting in the middle of the ocean, where there is not a single drop of fresh water, not one river, and at first glance, no natural resources at all. Surrounded on all sides by open sea, the island takes the full force of violent storms, striking from every direction. And yet, Bermuda ranks among the wealthiest places in the world, where more than 60,000 people live with a standard of living among the highest on the planet. Stranger still, that wealth does not come from oil, gold, or any mineral resource. It comes from turning the storms themselves, the earthquakes, and countless natural disasters around the world into an industry worth billions of dollars. So how exactly did Bermuda pull off something like that? Say the name Bermuda, and most people immediately picture some dreamy tropical island somewhere in the Caribbean. But in reality, Bermuda is a British overseas territory, standing alone in the North Atlantic, surrounded by open water, with almost no other land anywhere nearby. The archipelago is made up of about 7 main islands, along with more than 100 smaller ones, and scattered rocky islets. Yet the total land area of the entire place is just over 50 square kilometers. The closest land is Cape Hatteras on the east coast of the United States, about 1,050 kilometers west of Bermuda. But that number alone still does not capture how remote this island really is. Leave Bermuda and head straight east, and you would cross more than 4,800 kilometers of open ocean before touching the coast of Morocco in North Africa. Between those two distances, there is almost nothing but seawater, gusting wind, and rolling waves, stretching on seemingly forever to the horizon. No neighboring country to connect to, no large island chain to shelter it, and of course, no road or bridge. To carry anyone away from here. That is why Bermuda feels like a tiny dot, isolated in the middle of the ocean, where every shipment, every visitor, and any link to the outside world has to cross an enormous stretch of sea. Many people still wonder where the name Bermuda came from and why anyone would agree to settle on a rock this lonely. The answer lies in a historical event in the year 1609. That year, a violent storm drove the English ship Sea Venture onto the reefs ringing the island. The survivors washed ashore, and they were stunned to discover the island had not a single river, not one lake, and no natural source of fresh water at all. This place was quite literally a lone slab of limestone in the middle of a vast ocean. And yet, from that harsh starting line, one of the most extraordinary stories of resilience and prosperity in human history had begun.
The African savannah has no law of fairness. Only 3 laws every survivor must know. The law of boundaries. Know exactly where your power ends and know when that boundary is being tested. The Mara River, Kenya, stretching over 400 kilometers, a natural boundary between the grasslands and the riverine zone. The most dangerous in Africa. Two apex predators sharing the same ecosystem. The law of numbers. The strongest individual still falls before an organized collective. Akagera, Rwanda. 2 decades without a roar, without the scent of danger. Prey in this region had 20 years to thrive, without predator pressure. And the fear reflex does not return on its own when lions come back. The law of breakthrough. Those who have not yet accumulated enough failures are sometimes the first to break the limit. Cylinder Spillway, Botswana. The smallest lion pride in the region. About to face what no one dared touch. 3 laws, 1 species. African lion has written all 3 laws in blood and passed that knowledge across generations. Nile crocodile carries over 70 teeth, regrowing throughout its lifetime and never dulling. A survival weapon in perpetual renewal. The tail of the Nile crocodile, 6 meters, accounts for nearly half the body length, generating enough thrust to launch the entire body clear of the water in under a second. Their bite force reaches 2,000 kilograms, the strongest of any living animal, enough to crush the femur of an adult buffalo in a single snap. Across thousands of years of coexistence on the Mara, that bite force has never been turned on the African lion. Among the big cats, evolution defaults to solitude. Tiger, leopard, cheetah all operate alone. Only the lion does not. Living in prides is not the African lion's first choice, but the ecosystem demands collective strength. The pride enables taking down prey larger than any single individual could handle and distributes risk against enemies no individual could face alone. These two species have met at the Mara River across thousands of years. The Nile crocodile is fully capable of attacking the African lion. But here, that boundary has never been broken. Both species learn to avoid costly conflict by dividing their operational space. Then migration season arrives. 400,000 wildebeest pour into the Mara River at once. The waterway becomes a killing ground. Boundaries are erased by the chaos of prey. Hundreds of thousands of wildebeest are a signal no apex predator can ignore. For every apex predator in the region, Nile crocodile and African lion converge at the same point, at the same moment. Two apex predators, same killing ground, less than 20 meters apart. Nile crocodile handles its prey underwater. African lion handles its prey on land. Neither looks toward the other. Not one conflict. That is the law of boundaries. The truly powerful need not prove themselves stronger than another powerful force. They need only know where the boundary lies and hold it. Cheetah does not live in prides. That is the rule. Cheetah operates alone. Its own territory, its own prey, no cooperation with any other individual. Kasaroo is the exception to that rule. A mother and 5 offspring, 3 adults and 2 younger males. An extraordinary number. For a species whose long-term bonds exist only with cubs during the rearing phase. Kasaroo does not operate by the standard rules of cheetah behavior. She operates by the principle of force multiplication. Coordinated strength transforms the speed of 1 into the effectiveness of 5. Cheetah reaches 100 kilometers per hour in seconds, the fastest land mammal on Earth. But that speed is not an absolute weapon. 20 to 30 seconds after reaching maximum speed, cheetah's body temperature rises to a physiologically dangerous threshold. It must stop, whether prey is still running or already exhausted. This is an unbreakable physical limit. The fastest engine always generates the most heat. A solitary cheetah must sprint at full force and bring down prey before body temperature crosses the dangerous physiological threshold. Cassaroo does not sprint at full force from the start. She traps. Cassaroo deploys in a three-point pattern. One applies direct pressure, 3 close-off escape routes, 1 waits at the position prey most often runs to. Thompson's gazelle cannot leap like impala, but zigzags at high speed and changes direction at the exact moment cheetah accelerates, the moment when every directional change doubles heat expenditure. The zigzag is not calculated, only reflex, but a reflex precisely countering how cheetah hunts. Cassaroo eliminates space and escape directions before the sprint begins. Cassaroo and her 5 offspring achieve a success rate approaching 50%. Unmatched by any predator on the Mara grasslands. Not because they are the fastest, but because they know the limits of speed and use tactics to compensate for that limit. Every pause is not failure. It is deliberate energy conservation, avoiding sprinting to the dangerous heat threshold when the kill opportunity is not high enough. The Mara ecosystem does not run on one species, controlling everything. It runs on stratification. The Mara ecosystem is stratified by evolutionary pressure. Nile crocodile owns the water. African lion controls open land by day. Cheetah operates in open light. Leopard owns the darkness. Each stratum is held not by treaty, but by the cost of encroaching in the wrong place. This is why the Mara ecosystem is stable, not because the strongest wins, but because each species knows which stratum it belongs. Akagera is savanna mixed with wetland, entirely different from the dry Mara grasslands. Plains, zebra and reedbuck are the common prey here. Nile crocodile is also present in the Akagera lake zone, an additional variable the new pride had never encountered. Leading them was an 1-year-old lioness who had led a pride successfully in South Africa. Her name was Ineza. Akagera did not welcome Ineza. Akagera had its own laws older than any lion in the new pride. In 2015, 17 lions left South Africa on a 2,500-kilometer journey. Their ultimate objective was to restore the predator ecosystem at Akagera, a land where lions had completely disappeared across decades of conflict and poaching. 20 years without an apex predator does not mean 20 years of weakened prey. Sometimes it means 20 years of living free of fear, including death itself. African buffalo. Each one weighs 800 kilograms. Horns fused into a shield harder than bone. The boss. Structure protecting the neck and head from powerful impacts. This shield is strong enough to protect the buffalo from a direct vehicle impact. That bone shield integrates direct defense. Every bite aimed at the neck and head is neutralized before reaching the skin. At first, Ineza primarily hunted familiar prey, like plains zebra and reedbuck in Akagera. Even so, African buffalo remained the largest caloric source. They concentrate near water sources in the dry season. And they knew no fear. An adult male in the Serengeti would flee at the sight of a lion. That reflex is a survival mechanism, built over many years and many generations. African buffalo in Akagera did not have that reflex. The Akagera buffalo herd had not lost its survival reflex. They had replaced it with something more effective. When they scented lion for the first time in 20 years, their reflex was not run. Their reflex was turn back. Her cubs watched from behind. Every decision Ineza made was written directly into the behavioral memory of her child's. Failure was not just one missed meal, but a wrong lesson stored across generations. No one was injured. No one died. No prey taken. 20 years of collective behavioral evolution, compressed into 90 seconds. The apex predator lost every advantage. A lion cannot attack hundreds of opponents at once. Every direction of attack is a direction to be struck from behind. A united collective overwhelms a lone apex predator. This is the law of numbers. Ineza and her pride had to relearn from the start. Isolate a lone buffalo first, then attack and never approach while the herd remains united. Ineza learned that through direct experience at Akagera from buffalo, who had replaced fear with collective unity. The paradox of reintroduction is that when a predator returns after 20 years, prey does not weaken. Prey grows stronger because 20 years without predator pressure allowed the herd to grow large enough and united enough. Before the confrontation with buffalo, Akagera had given Ineza another lesson. That lesson did not come from large prey. but from the smallest creature on the grassland. Warthog. This prey weighs 80 kilograms, 1/10 of a buffalo, slower than cheetah, without the numbers of a buffalo herd. Yet warthog survives in an ecosystem where every apex predator targets them, and the reason is not strength or speed. Warthog has scent glands on its face and neck, detecting predators by scent. On the Akagera grassland, the wind frequently shifts. Warthog always receives the danger signal before the lion enters visual range. This is why lion's ambush tactic, which relies on visual surprise, fails completely against warthog in open terrain. Selinda Spillway, Botswana. More than a century of hunting had erased lion from the landscape. No roar, no trace, silence that stretched too long. Then the first 2 lionesses were released. They began to build. Now the Selinda Pride had 5 members. Zero led the sub-adult coalition. None of them had ever killed prey larger than an impala. Dry season. Selinda Spillway shifts with the water season. When water rises, land fractures into isolated islands, and familiar prey retreats in every direction. The dry season withdraws each species by its own biological logic. Wildebeest follow water sources south. Impala and reedbuck retreat into the swamp. Terrain absolutely disadvantageous for lion hunting. Plains zebra fast enough to exhaust the young lion pride, not yet skilled in coordinating with each other. African elephant carries an attack cost threshold beyond the capacity of any lion pride with fewer than 8 adults. Large and accessible prey were gone. What remained on the isolated islands of Selinda? Hippo. 1.5 tons, jaws wider than a meter when fully open, strong enough to kill an adult Nile crocodile in a single snap. Able to stay submerged for 5 minutes without breathing, surfacing each night to graze 40 kilograms of vegetation. Hippo responds with maximum force to anything intruding on their water territory, without warning, without escalation, only immediate full-force response. No adult lion had ever successfully attacked a hippo, alone or in a full pride. But here is the thing about Sero and the coalition. They were sub-adults, had not yet accumulated enough failures, had not yet built the avoidance reflex that adult lions build through repeated direct encounters. Night at Selinda Spillway. One hippo makes a giant mistake. Tonight, they conquered their fears and opened the window of knowledge. They realize they can take down hippo. The fall of the first hippopotamus opened a window of knowledge, not just for the 5 lions that night, but for the entire Cylinder Pride. This is how evolution unfolds in real time. The first 2 lionesses released into Cylinder laid the foundation. Cero and the coalition built the next level. From nothing to a pride that knows how to do what no one ever could. That is the law of breakthrough. 3 locations, 3 encounters, 3 sets of laws. The law of boundaries. Jabari and the Mara pride do not clash with the Nile crocodile. Not because they lack the strength, but because they know the exact limits of their power and hold the line. 2 apex predators coexist within an ecosystem stable for thousands of years. The boundary between Jabari and the crocodile remains firm, because both have learned enough to no longer need to push that boundary. The law of the majority. Ineza and her cub made it through the buffalo encirclement without coming out on top in that confrontation. But escaping brought home the most vital lesson she ever learned at Akagera, which is that a united herd is off limits. The Akagera pride's behavior shifted, meaning they would never confront a united buffalo herd and always look to isolate a single individual before making a move. Setbacks were systematized into knowledge, and that knowledge was passed down through observation, from mothers to the new generation. Ineza gave birth to 4 cubs. Those 4 cubs observed how their mother adjusted her tactics. They will never confront a buffalo herd because they watched their mother learn and adapt. The law of breakthrough. Cero and his coalition had not yet accumulated enough setbacks with hippopotamuses to build an avoidance reflex. That is why they succeeded in taking them down. From the first 2 lionesses released into Cylinder, the pride now stands at over 60 individuals. Through the first 14 months, the pride has kept every single cub safe. This is the very proof. The law of breakthrough is no flash in the pan, but a foundation built on skills accumulated through generations. The African savannah is not fair, never has been. Yet it operates under a code that no species created, but everyone must learn. Jabari is still patrolling the Mara River banks. The boundary with the Nile crocodile remains, nameless but held firm. That boundary is more durable than any treaty because it is carved by evolutionary pressure, not by conscious decision. One African buffalo is no stronger than one African lion. But 200 is always greater than 1 in every ecosystem at all times. No species calls the shots. Everyone just has to learn. 3 laws are written in nature's clearest language, woven from sacrifice and wisdom, passed down from one generation to the next. sheer strength alone does not cut it on the savannah. The savannah rewards those who learn and know how to pass on what they have mastered. You have just witnessed the 3 laws of the African savannah. The law of boundaries. Kenya's Mara River, where the African lion and the Nile crocodile share hunting grounds without moving against each other, because both know exactly where the line is drawn. The law of the majority. Akagera, Rwanda, where 200 African buffaloes, surrounded and penned in a lioness and her cub, because an organized collective outmatches any single apex predator. The law of breakthrough. Selinda, Botswana, where 5 young lions did what no one thought possible, because they lacked the setbacks to make them hesitate. 3 lands, 3 laws, 1 species records it all, through sacrifice and wisdom across generations. This is the African savannah. This is where the journey of survival unfolds, driven by knowledge, accumulated and passed down through every generation. Survival of the fittest, by Darwin's true definition, is not about the strongest making it through. It is about the most adaptable, the fastest learner, the one who passes the torch to the next generation. If this episode showed you something you have never seen before, share it right away. Because the African savannah writes these laws every single day, and very few are watching. Subscribe so you do not miss the next full episode. The savannah is far from closing the book. The savannah predators are not done with their lessons. Dawn had just touched the tips of the acacia trees across the savannah. But beneath the amber sky, as it darkened, the hunt had already begun. In the tall grass to the west, golden shadows moved, pressing forward without making a single sound. The lionesses were not as powerful as the males, but they were more patient, more rhythmically coordinated, and they understood a truth governing all life on the savannah. Patience is the very line that determines whether the outcome is a full feast or a prolonged hunger. Their pride coordination was so perfect there was not a single crack. One lioness lowered herself, belly pressed flat against the ground. Watching and waiting, another moved as a decoy, spreading wide on both flanks, just enough to draw a young animal. Into a moment of curiosity, dropping its guard. Watch this. The lead lioness burst out of the tall grass. What followed were a few seconds of pure chaos. Dust exploded in a blinding cloud. Roars tore through the silence. The entire pride surged in, tearing at their prize. The young hippo fell. Before the hunt had begun, one creature had been silently watching everything from start to finish. On the branches of the trees, a fortress, darkness beyond the reach of any lion, a troop of baboons had long been awake. Their eyes swept across the savannah from above. The alpha male, at over 80 pounds, around 36 kilograms, his muscles rippling, stood on the highest rock outcrop. His canines were as long as those of a leopard. Yet the canines were not his most formidable weapon. Intelligence was what was truly extraordinary. Facial recognition, establishing political alliances, social strategies so sophisticated that scientists have called baboons creatures of Machiavellian intelligence, a Machiavellian mind. They possess intelligence equivalent to that of a human 3-year-old. A sharp bark split the dawn. It was the alarm call reserved exclusively for lions. Baboons have distinct alarm calls, one for leopard, another for eagle, and yet another for snake. Each predator is a unique acoustic frequency. The entire savannah instantly listens. Antelope stop grazing. Ostriches raise their heads. Zebras rotate their ears. A cascade effect spreads. A single call activates. Thousands of survival reflexes rippling across the grasslands. When baboons issue an alarm call, no creature on the ground dares ignore it. But today, the warning arrived too late for the oryx herd to the west. They had fallen beneath the claws of lions. A few hundred meters away, a herd of African ostriches was foraging right next to another antelope herd. This group was significantly safer. The closeness between these two species was no coincidence. This was a sensory alliance, a silent pact honed by evolution over millions of years. The ostrich possesses eyes up to 5 centimeters in diameter and remarkably larger than its own brain. The largest eyes of any land animal on Earth, holding a Guinness World Record. From its elevated vantage point at nearly 2.7 meters, the ostrich functions as a mobile watchtower of the savannah. Each eye is 5 times more acute than the human eye, scanning every smallest movement across the vast grasslands. But eyes larger than the brain means they see everything but comprehend very little. Ostrich detects movement, but cannot analyze the nature of the threat. Reaching maximum speed of nearly 72 kilometers per hour, The fastest two-legged creature, with great strides, yet fleeing remains their last resort. Together, they form a surveillance network through which no frequency, no movement can pass undetected. And there is a myth that people still firmly believe that ostriches bury their heads in sand. That is the oldest fabrication in all of natural history. They lower their heads to the ground only to reduce their profile, to avoid detection, or to turn eggs inside the nest. But the sounds that mark sovereignty are also an invitation to challenge. A howl echoed from far away, then a wild, spine-chilling laughter followed. A sound no one can ever forget. A piercing shriek was rising. A clan of spotted hyenas was converging from every direction. The clan was led by the largest female. In an absolutely matriarchal society, this is what most people get wrong. Spotted hyenas are not scavengers. They hunt 60 to 95% of their own food. The most enduringly efficient hunters across all of Africa. And here is the more astonishing truth. It is lions that regularly steal food from hyenas, not the other way around. Data from the Ngorongoro Hyena Project, through decades of observation, has confirmed this. But today, the hyena clan wanted to reclaim what was theirs. They surrounded a male lion feeding on a carcass. The male lion stood. A muscle mass of around 181 kilograms dominated them completely in physical form. The hyenas understood one law of survival. Never confront a healthy male lion head-on, regardless of how large their numbers. Their tactic was harassment and patience. The hyena clan surged in within seconds, powerful jaws cracking bone, stripping the carcass clean, clearing every last scrap in just a few short minutes. On the savannah, nothing is wasted. Patience had defeated raw strength. At least for today. The hyena clan finished their meal. Bones remained shattered where they lay. The savannah fell silent once more. But the ground beneath it did not. A seismic tremor moved through the earth, at a frequency below the threshold of human hearing. Not an earthquake, not thunder. It was the call of the African elephant. The elephant herd crossed the grassland, each step pressing over 6 tons into the earth. Generating seismic waves that travel over 16 kilometers through rock and soil. The elephant's feet receive these vibrations. Seismic communication is a language that took humans decades to discover. Leading the elephant herd was the oldest female, the matriarch, the living memory of an entire family. Like the hyenas, elephant society follows strict matriarchal order. But unlike the hyenas, power here does not originate from canines or claws, but from memory. The matriarch remembers every water source, every migration route, every drought that lasted 60 years ago. In years of devastating drought, the survival of the entire herd depends entirely on the memory of this single individual, and the trunk is perhaps the most extraordinary organ that evolution has ever created, containing over 40,000 muscle bundles within a single structure. The entire human body possesses only 640 muscles. The elephant herd passed through, and the savannah transformed in the most literal sense of the word. They knocked down trees, clearing pathways, digging waterholes that dozens of other species depend on. The greatest architects of Africa, no living creature dares block their path, not even the lion, which dozens of other species depend upon. The greatest architects of Africa. Not a single living creature dares block their path, not even a lion. On the savannah, every dawn is a new battle. Every creature is simultaneously a weapon and a target, both hunter and prey.
The jaguar had been motionless for 40 minutes. This is the most critical part of the hunt. Before anything happens. A blind spot that lasts only 3 seconds. The Amazon's ultimate predator commits. 3 seconds. A 4-meter caiman, no longer whole. Approximately 55 million years ago, the Andes began to rise. This was not merely a geological event. It created the Amazon. As the Andes climbed, they blocked Pacific winds, creating a vast, low-pressure system drawing moisture from the Atlantic. A self-sustaining moisture cycle, what scientists call the flying rivers. The result of 55 million years is 7 million square kilometers of borderless forest. A river stretching 6,400 kilometers. Carries 20% of all fresh water on Earth to the ocean each day. 10% of all species on Earth live here. Not because the Amazon is rich in the conventional sense. Diversity here does not come from soil, it comes from time. The Amazon has existed long enough and remained stable enough for life to test every possible solution. Of all that the Amazon has produced, the jaguar is its most perfect expression. Amazon jaguars are the largest of their kind. Adult males reach 79 to 96 kilograms, significantly larger than the 57 to 68 kilograms typical of Central America. This difference is not written in their genes. It is made by the environment. The Amazon offers heavier prey, larger capybara, bigger tapir, greater caiman. Evolutionary pressure from larger prey selects for jaguars with greater mass and stronger bite force. At the same time, the Amazon has more competitors. Adding selection pressure from rivals as well. The Amazon does not produce small kings, because it has no room for the weak. Before every jaguar hunt, the Amazon changes, not with sound, with silence. Within a radius of 200 to 300 meters, birds reduce or cease their calls. Mammals stop unnecessary movement. The jaguar is invisible before any prey ever sees it. It releases scent traces from sebaceous glands between its toes as it moves. Species with sensitive olfaction. Lizards, small rodents, detect rising pheromone concentrations and respond by reducing activity. That response radiates outward like a sound wave through water. Larger prey, capybara, tapir, cannot detect the jaguar this way from a distance. And that is precisely why they become prey. This jaguar holds and maintains a territory of 25 to 150 square kilometers. The boundary of that territory is not a line. It is a network of markers. Claw marks on trees at 1.5 to 2 meters above the ground. Urine sprayed against bark at specific angles. And scat placed at strategic points. Along regular travel corridors, these marks do not simply announce presence. They encode information, sex, age, reproductive condition, and when the mark was last refreshed. A male reads a female's marks to know when to approach. A female reads a male's marks to assess him before any meeting. Marks are renewed every 3 to 5 days. The frequency required to keep information current in humid tropical heat, where scent degrades faster than in temperate climates. On the sandbar mid-river, turtles have not come here to rest, they have come to lay eggs. This sandbar was selected against precise criteria. A slope sufficient to drain during light rain, sand grain size suited for digging and covering a nest, and most critically, a position receiving 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight each day. Nest temperature determines the sex of hatchlings in this species. Below 28 degrees Celsius produces males, above 32 degrees Celsius produces females. The choice of sandbar is not instinct alone. It reflects memory of sandbars that succeeded in previous seasons. And this is why this sandbar lies within jaguar territory. The range of this apex predator consistently covers the riverbanks, where prey density is highest. The capybara is the world's largest rodent and the single most important prey species in the jaguar's diet across the Amazon. Adults weigh 35 to 65 kilograms. They live in groups of 10 to 20, rarely venturing more than 500 meters from water. This behavior is not merely habit. Capybara are semi-aquatic. Their skin desiccates rapidly away from water, and they use rivers as their primary escape route. But that same dependence places them squarely within the jaguar's operating zone. A predator that spends 70% of its time along riverbanks. Capybara density in areas without jaguar reaches 50 to 100 individuals per square kilometer, with jaguar present 8 to 12. That difference reshapes the riverbank. Capybara at high density graze vegetation to the roots, eroding banks, sending sediment into the river. Rising sediment reduces light for aquatic plants, lowers dissolved oxygen, and shrinks fish breeding habitat. By hunting capybara consistently, the jaguar architects the shape of the riverbank. The wet season has not yet peaked. In a matter of weeks, floodwaters will rise 9 to 15 meters, sufficient to inundate 350,000 square kilometers of forest, erasing every sandbar, every territorial boundary, every incubating turtle nest. The dry season right now, the time when sandbars are exposed, when territories can still be red, is the most concentrated moment in the entire ecosystem. Everything requires the same diminishing resource, and everything knows it. This is why the Amazon is never still. It is always in the process of calculating something. The Amazon does not announce what it holds. It simply holds. Its rulers survive not through strength alone, but because they can read and understand this system more deeply than any other creature. But the Amazon grants no ruler a throne without challenge. Black caiman is no ordinary crocodilian. Measuring 4 to 5 meters in length, weighing 400 to 500 kilograms, it is the largest crocodilian in South America and one of the Amazon's foremost apex predators. But what sets it apart is not size. It is armor. Osteoderms, plates of bone embedded within the skin, extend across the back, flanks, and the upper surface of the skull. These plates, 3 to 4 millimeters thick and fused to the dermal structure, form armor that is flexible yet exceptionally resistant. No other large cat can penetrate them with a conventional bite. Only the jaguar. The Amazon's predator does not approach in the conventional way. The jaguar's zygomatic arch is the widest of all species in the Pantherinae relative to head size. The temporalis muscle attached to this arch covers the greatest surface area of any large cat. The result: 887 newtons of bite force at the canine and 1,300 newtons at the molar position. The jaguar had watched this caiman from the sandbar's edge for over an hour. Before the jaguar reached the caiman, something else had already happened. The arapaima, a fish exceeding 100 kilograms and 2 meters in length, had retreated to deeper water. The arapaima was not threatened by this encounter. Its retreat was a response to environmental signals. Rising cortisol concentrations in the water released by the activated jaguar nearby. And retreat was the most rational response. The arapaima's movement became a signal to the surrounding ecosystem, other species reading its retreat as an indicator. Piranha arrived within minutes of blood reaching the water, not because they are aggressive, because they can detect blood at 1 part per million, equivalent to a single drop in an Olympic swimming pool. Chemical detection combined with the lateral line allows piranha to locate the source even in turbid water. In their normal diet, red-bellied piranha consume 70% plant material, seeds, fruits, submerged vegetation. But when blood is detected, the mode switches entirely. This is a rare, high-energy opportunity the piranha's nervous system is programmed to exploit completely. Piranha are the Amazon's essential cleaners by consuming carcasses and organic tissue before decomposition. They prevent disease and maintain water quality. Not every encounter between jaguar and black caiman ends with a successful skull bite. Black caiman can respond with a death roll if the jaguar attacks at the wrong angle or the caiman reacts in time. This caiman carries the marks of earlier encounters. Its lineage has persisted through 200 million years, not by never losing, but by knowing when to withdraw. This time it survived, and it is already revising its assessment. The Amazon flood does not begin in the Amazon. It begins in the Andes, when snowmelt from peaks above 6,000 meters combines with equatorial rainfall thousands of kilometers to the east, sending an immense wall of water down the basin for 6 months. Every species in the Amazon has calibrated its biology around these extraordinary water levels. When levels deviate significantly, the timing of the entire ecosystem is pushed off course. Black caiman is an ectotherm. Its body temperature determined entirely by the environment. This makes flooding both a challenge and an opportunity. When water inundates the forest, water temperature shifts with depth and canopy shade. Black caiman adjusts its flood season territory along thermal gradients, seeking shallow water near tree lines where temperature holds near 28 degrees Celsius, optimal for digestion and active hunting. At temperatures below 20 degrees Celsius, caiman reflex speed drops by 40%, explaining why jaguars tend to approach caiman in the early morning, when water temperatures remain low. The survival contest is not only a matter of size and strength, it is a matter of temperature and timing. In the wet season, black caiman does not resist the flood. It moves with it. Deep into the flooded forest, where fish density surges as species migrate inward to spawn. The flooded forest provides richer feeding than the main river throughout these 6 months. But the wet season is also breeding season. Black caiman nests are built on raised earthen banks. A mound of decomposing leaves, branches, and plant material, rising 1 to 1.5 meters. The female remains near the nest for 3 months. Not only to guard it, but to manage its temperature, opening it when too warm, adding material when too cool. This is active thermal management, rare among reptiles. When hatchlings break through, they emit a soft call. The mother misses none of them. But sandbars and raised banks disappear day by day as flood levels rise. Hatchlings must reach shallow water within hours of emerging. Those that fail will lose heat or be detected by piranha. First-year survival is below 10%. As water floods deep into the forest, the boto appears. The boto, Amazon river dolphin, has unfused cervical vertebrae, allowing it to rotate its head 90 degrees to either side. No other cetacean on Earth shares this anatomical feature. In the flooded forest, where tree trunks create a three-dimensional maze, the ability to rotate its neck allows the boto to pursue prey through corners that ocean dolphins could never navigate. Yet vision is entirely useless here. Amazon water is stained by tannins from decomposing leaves, opaque as strong tea. Black caiman and boto share the same flooded waters, the same prey, the same space, the same season. But they do not attack each other, not because they cannot. A caiman can kill a boto in open water, but the flooded forest changes the balance entirely. In the labyrinth of trunks and roots, the boto is far quicker and more agile. The caiman avoids deep forest water because it loses its advantage there. Each species has simply learned the boundary at which advantage transfers from itself to the other, and it avoids crossing that line. 200 million years. This lineage existed before the Amazon had a name, before this river flowed in its current direction, before the Andes existed. The giant anaconda is the heaviest snake in the world. The largest, measured by professional research teams, reaches 8.8 meters, exceeding 100 kilograms. Claims of 12-meter anacondas typically come from unverified sources. Anacondas can stretch considerably when muscle tone is absent after death. In the dry season, giant anaconda moves to shallower, warmer water. Its ideal digestive temperature is 28 to 32 degrees Celsius. This matches the temperature of shallow, dry season river sections. The anaconda's detection does not rely on vision. It senses heat through thermoreceptor cells along the lip region and detects vibration through thousands of mechanoreceptors beneath the skin. From a semi-submerged position in mud, the anaconda builds a thermal map of everything within meters. Jaguar and anaconda use the same riverbanks on alternating shifts. The jaguar primarily from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., the anaconda primarily from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. One territory, two species, two non-overlapping shifts. This is timeshare ecology, dividing resources by time rather than space. The dry season breaks that system. When dry ground shrinks to a fraction of the total range, there is no longer enough space for two separate shifts. Overlap becomes inevitable. And this is why three-way encounters occur. Both were converging on the same capybara standing in the shallows. The jaguar stalked from the high bank, reading the wind direction, waiting for the capybara to step clear of the water. The anaconda read the capybara's body heat through the water from its lip receptors. Two different tactics, one target, the same moment. The capybara lifted its head. Nothing visible. The jaguar behind a trunk. The anaconda beneath the mud. But it smelled them. The chemical signatures of both predators had combined. Stress hormone concentrations in the water rising sharply. The capybara returned to the group. Two hunts failed simultaneously. Intraspecific competition theory predicts when two predators exploit the same resource, the one capable of inflicting greater cost on the other will dominate, but this is not a pair. This is a triangle. In a triangle, each apex fears another in a different way. The jaguar can kill anaconda and caiman. The anaconda can kill a jaguar if it seizes one from behind in water. The caiman can kill an anaconda if it clamps across its body. No single apex holds absolute advantage over both others simultaneously. This is why none of them strikes first. The cost of serious conflict, injury in an environment where injury leads to infection, weakened hunting capacity, and death, exceeds the benefit of displacing a rival from one patch of dry ground. Non-aggression is not the result of submission. It is the result of risk-benefit calculation. The longest survivors in the Amazon are not those that fight most. They are those that know when not to fight. From the canopy above, the harpy eagle adds a fourth dimension with a wingspan of 2.2 meters. And talons 13 centimeters long, generating 530 newtons of grip force. It is the absolute predator of the forest canopy. But its presence does not only affect the canopy, it alters behavior on the ground. The landscape of fear concept describes how prey alter habitat selection based on predator distribution. Capybara in open ground know the harpy eagle patrols above. Capybara near the forest edge know the jaguar patrols below. Nowhere is absolutely safe. But each position carries a different risk profile, and the decision of where to stand is never random. In the dry season, all those landscapes of fear compress together. Less space means all risk gradients overlap. Only those with better judgment than their rivals, and those who pay the price for poor judgment. The dry season will continue, and the encounters that follow may not end as quietly as the statistics suggest. The Amazon is a place those who have lived in it for 10,000 years have not explored. They call it home. Those arriving from outside call it a mystery. It is simply a set of African savanna. Late dry season. A herd of zebras stands near the water's edge. Around 30 individuals in their own social order. At full speed, a lioness can only sustain a sprint for 100 to 300 meters before body temperature exceeds the safe threshold. On the Serengeti, lions fail in 75 to 83% of hunts because prey do not stand still and wait. It takes considerable time to recover from the full force of a prey animal's kick. Not much, but this is one of the prey's most desperate efforts to live another day. Kruger National Park, South Africa. Cheetah, the Savannah's champion sprinter. Built to race prey down across open ground. Peak recorded speed over 100 kilometers per hour. Full acceleration in just 3 seconds. On the Savannah, 60 to 70 kilometers per hour is enough to close on a zebra. A lean animal with a lightweight frame would rarely risk its chances against prey weighing nearly 300 kilograms. But when young males run in coalition, the calculation shifts. Though they spend much of their time avoiding lions, youth gives them boldness. Zebras travel in large herds. They are rarely alone. That is the first challenge. Isolate the unlucky one. The young, the old, the injured. The hunter's dark-marked eyes are always sharp. A small group is separated from the herd. 2 cheetahs want to move immediately, but their numbers are not yet enough to threaten large prey. One makes an attempt to change the odds. But the adult zebra understands the nature of inexperienced predators. This inadvertently opens an opportunity for the one remaining. It has spotted a young zebra. The one who seizes the moment is the one who succeeds. It is smarter than its coalition partner. Following its mother's teaching, the most important thing when hunting large prey is to bring it down. It does, but the bite is not enough. The bite is too shallow to finish. The zebra's kick is instinct. It escapes with ease. The cheetah cannot give further chase. Its energy has limits. The hunger continues, but it will be more careful in selecting prey next time. Cape buffalo, 900 to 1,000 kilograms. Living in large herds, moving across vast ranges in search of grass and water, no fixed territory. Buffalo society is layered by age and sex. The main herd consists of females, young and juvenile males. Larger males typically form separate bachelor groups or live alone. The solitary older males, dagger boys. Dried mud on their hides, the mark of a habit of wallowing to reduce heat and shed parasites. Buffalo are not passive prey. They are extremely volatile and, more dangerously, deeply unpredictable in their next move. With dagger boys, confrontations can result in severe injury. In more than 2 decades of monitoring at Kruger National Park, buffalo are the single leading cause of lion death attributed to prey. Not because buffalo seek out lions, because when attacked, they cannot run fast enough to escape and will not stand still long enough to be taken. Lions choose buffalo for size. A single animal can feed an entire pride for 2 days. But size is also the risk. Male lions are especially vulnerable. Broken canines, fractured ribs, internal trauma. Standard approach for large prey: come from behind, dig claws into the rump or hindquarters, use body weight to drag it down, avoid direct confrontation. With zebra and wildebeest, this works when executed correctly. With buffalo, it triggers a defensive system built precisely to counter both approaches lions typically use. Mode 1. Attack from the rear. When claws sink into the hindquarters, the buffalo fires a backward kick simultaneously with a 180-degree pivot. Rotator muscles in the cervical and lumbar spine carry exceptionally high mass and torque capacity among bovidae, a structure connected to both offensive behavior and defense. The kick dislodges the grip. Mode 2. Attack from the front or flank. The boss, the fused horn base, is a composite structure. The frontal bone is calcium reinforced, covered by a thick, compact keratin layer. Total weight reaching 20 kilograms in a mature male. Bone handles compression. Keratin absorbs shear and distributes impact. A lion's canine, bite force of 1,000 to 1,800 newtons, is sufficient to penetrate the skull of most prey species. It is not sufficient to penetrate an intact buffalo boss. Overall lion hunt success rate, 17 to 25%. Buffalo accounting for a major share of the failures. The dagger boy presents a distinct variant of the same defense. The boss continues to thicken with age through slow but continuous mineralization. More significantly, no herd to flee with, no social pressure to yield. When lions approach, dagger boys typically countercharge before the approach is complete. Buffalo have the size and biological structure for active defense. Wildebeest do not, nearly 4 times lighter. No boss shield, no herd kick perimeter. Yet wildebeest have a higher survival rate than many species of comparable size. The reason lies in something invisible: timing. The giraffe is the tallest living land mammal. 4.5 to 5.8 meters tall, 800 to 1,200 kilograms in weight. Not a creature of open grassland, giraffes' preferred habitat is sparse woodland and acacia savanna, where body height provides access to foliage no other species can reach. An adult requires 30 to 75 kilograms of leaves and shoots per day. 16 to 20 hours moving slowly through woodland, neck extended, a 45-centimeter tongue curling around each acacia branch. Giraffes do not live in tight herds like zebras. They move in loose groups of a few to a few dozen. No fixed territory, no clear alpha. The strongest bond is between mother and calf. Each day, a giraffe must drink once or twice. And this is the one moment when their anatomy creates a point of vulnerability. Lion hunting attempts targeting adult giraffes succeed in fewer than 6% of all attempts. The majority of giraffes killed in wild records are calves under 6 months or subadults under 2 years. The stage at which leg length is not yet sufficient for the moment arm to generate defensive force above the critical threshold. Yet some young individuals display remarkable courage. Adult giraffes are not attacked in woodland, they are attacked at the water's edge. The only place where the drinking posture forces them out of a state of defensive readiness. The Nile crocodile, with a bite force of 16,000 newtons, the highest of any living reptile, exploits that vulnerability in a different way. Like every species on the savannah, giraffes will do whatever it takes to reach fresh growth. And today, they will cross this shallow river. With their impressive height, this is no great challenge. The mother senses movement below and reacts on instinct to protect her year-old calf. But the crocodile's bite is one step faster. The mother's only means of defense becomes the very thing that strikes down her own calf. For lions, this represents a significant prize, and as with any significant prize, it requires a strong enough coalition and the endurance to bring such prey down. To bring down a creature that stands firm and moves in long strides, lions need more than a single leap onto a back 2 meters above the ground. They must read their opponent, and fortune favors this pride today. Their target has a broken leg. 3 lionesses pursue the target with relentless patience. One strikes from behind. Its effort contributes to the giraffe's mounting exhaustion. With a broken leg, this giraffe cannot, because when they stand together, the collective strength of these giants cannot be taken lightly. Wildebeest undertake one of the largest migrations of any living mammal. Approximately 1.5 million individuals moving in an 800-kilometer circuit across the Serengeti Mara ecosystem each year, following rain and fresh grass, with no fixed territory and no permanent leader. Calves are born at the start of the wet season, when grass is most tender and nutrition is highest. They stand within minutes of birth and are running with the herd within hours. There is no other way to survive the migration. Stop means to be left behind, and to be left behind on the Serengeti Savannah without a herd means something unmistakable. Wildebeest are more accessible prey for lions. 250 kilograms, no boss shield, no 2-meter moment arm. Wildebeest are not equipped to fight back with force, but with timing. Lions target wildebeest more frequently than any other large prey species on the Serengeti. Hunt success rates against adult wildebeest on open plains are lower than commonly assumed. River crossings are the most dangerous point. There they must contend with one of the most powerful biters in the animal kingdom, while remaining alert to those waiting to ambush them on the banks. This is why calves under 6 weeks are the priority target of lions in any wildebeest aggregation. River crossings are the one environment that completely neutralizes the wildebeest's primary defensive mechanism. This is why the herd rushes across rather than advancing step by step, to minimize exposure time in that unfavorable environment. Conversely, crocodiles are more effective at river crossings not because of superior hunting skill, but because they are operating in the one environment that neutralizes the prey's primary defense. Zebra, giraffe, buffalo, wildebeest, 4 species, 4 distinct biological solutions. All mammals, all with skeletal and muscular systems familiar to predators. The final species in this episode belongs to a different group entirely. The ostrich is the largest living bird on Earth. 2.5 meters tall, 130 to 150 kilograms in weight. Distributed across the dry savannas and semi-deserts of Africa. Not woodland or tall grassland, but open terrain where long sightlines and movement speed are the priority. The ostrich reaches 70 kilometers per hour in short bursts and sustains 50 kilometers per hour over distance. Outpace most predators on a straight course. It cannot fly, and their loss is the origin of what was gained in its place. The male takes incubation duty at night, black plumage blending with the dark ground, relatively difficult to detect. The female incubates by day, brown feathers matched to the dry earth. Neither leaves the nest when a predator approaches at a measured distance. The ostrich does not stay because it has no choice. It stays because it has the means. On the savannah, large predators learn quickly which prey not to attempt. Adult cheetahs almost never attempt a full hunt against an adult ostrich. Leopards observe from a distance and calculate the risk-reward. Lions occasionally commit to an attack and occasionally fall. Within class aves, most species have 4 toes. The ostrich has 2. All contact area and force are concentrated into a single dominant point through a 10-centimeter toenail with a keratin structure of higher protein cross-linking density than most bird claws. Force concentrated into a smaller area means higher pressure per unit area. The same principle that makes a stiletto heel more damaging than a boot heel at equal weight. The ostrich does not kick backward, it kicks forward. This mechanism differs in its primary muscle group. While a hind kick is driven by the hamstrings and gluteal complex, the ostrich's forward kick is driven by antagonist muscles developed with particular strength in ratites because there is no flight musculature competing for resource allocation. Sequence: sidestep out of the predator's line of attack, pivot, then a forward kick tracking to the opponent's position. Kick force equivalent to 450 to 500 kilograms concentrated at the nail. Those powerful legs are also deployed in contests for mating rights. The stronger individual drives the rival back, even expelling intruders from its territory. The contest ends with the arrival of a much larger presence. But they do not know they have been observed by a lion. Exhausted from the fight, the loser is no longer alert. The lioness needs only to read the moment precisely. Plain zebra are the most common hoofed mammal on the East African savanna, with around 500,000 individuals moving through the Serengeti Mara ecosystem each year. Their herds are not random gatherings. A typical family unit consists of 1 stallion, 3 to 4 mares, and offspring from multiple seasons, held together stably for years, not separated even across migrations. The strongest individual does not set the direction. The lead mare is the one who guides. The stallion holds the rear at the outer edge. That is the position of threat assessment. By day, the herd grazes and moves slowly with grass and water. No fixed territory. The zebra's defensive architecture resides in the body of each individual and in the way they coordinate when a threat arrives. The lioness approaches by standard method, slow stalking through tall grass, pausing when prey looks toward her, continuing when prey lowers its head to graze. The objective: close the distance to under 40 meters before the charge. The closer, the shorter the time the prey has to react. The problem: an adult zebra sustains 50 to 65 kilometers per hour across several kilometers. A lion reaches peak velocity faster, but cannot hold it. When the hunter closes on the prey, the muscles do what they were built to do. The hindquarter muscle group, quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteal complex, carries a significantly higher proportion of type 2X muscle fibers than domesticated horses. Type 2X fibers are not durable, but generate maximum force in the shortest time. Sprinter fiber, not marathon runner fiber. When the kick fires, the superficial digital flexor tendon and gastrocnemius release their stored energy added to active muscle contraction in a spring mass mechanism. The result? 3,100 to 6,200 newtons at the hoof, equivalent to 450 to 900 kilograms of force. But it is not the force that makes this kick different. It is the reflex speed. When the lion's claws touch the skin at the rump, signals from type 1A receptors in the muscle spindle travel directly to the spinal cord, activating alpha motor neurons back to the hind limb muscles, bypassing the cortex entirely. Polysynaptic spinal reflex. The full cycle completes in 80 to 150 milliseconds. The brain receives the information after the kick has already occurred. One kick does not only end a hunt, it changes how that lion assesses this prey going forward. A pride with an injury history from zebra tends to approach from the flank rather than the rear and prioritizes subadults or foals over adults. That is collective experience, updated season by season. Zebras solve the problem through reflex speed and group coordination. But there is a species that meets the same threat with something entirely different: leverage and the mass of gravity. The young lion will remember this. Genes change across generations. Behavior changes within a season. A wound changes things immediately. Across millions of encounters like this one, through generations, decades, ecosystems, both sides continue to change. Predators learn new approaches. Prey select for individuals with faster reflexes. Neither side wins permanently. That is why lions are still here, and so are the zebras. In any ecosystem, each species must continually change simply to maintain its current position, because every other species in that ecosystem is also changing. Predator-prey co-evolution is the textbook example. Lions improve, prey improve. Prey improve. Lions must improve further. There is no stopping point. Prey defense forces herds to keep moving, prevents overgrazing, maintains the vegetation. Predator failure rates keep herd sizes within the range the environment can support. All must follow the laws of natural survival. It is not only prey species such as zebra or antelope that live a life of constant struggle. Even the large social predators, lions among them, face death with regularity and from the earliest stages of life. In this savage kingdom, the lioness works constantly to keep her heirs clear of danger. Nile crocodile. This is perhaps one of the few genuine fears of the lioness. A lion cub is nothing more than a light meal to a Nile crocodile, and when they bite, the cub's fate is sealed. But there are days when crossing the river is unavoidable. The lioness must ensure her cubs survive to grow healthy, and one day become the apex predators they were born to be. Across hundreds of locations throughout Africa, the battleground between lion and crocodile is well established. But measured against the vast territory of lions, there's no breathing room for crocodiles. And so, to expand the battlefield, welcome to the Okavango Delta. This is the flood season, and the moment the greatest water creatures rise. This meal will not be peaceful. The male lion knows what waits in the floodwaters. To challenge a male lion, the Nile crocodile must reach 3 to 4 meters in length. The delta is its territory. This is the moment the Nile crocodile has been waiting for. The male lion hesitates. The jaws of the opponent are extraordinary in their size. But faced with the prospect of losing its kill, it must act. The young king wants to drag the kill away, but the crocodile wants to hold what lies within its territory. A male lion possesses the strength to hesitate and pull back, but what unfolds if the one meeting the crocodile has no way out? Have you ever seen a queen in a tight spot against a sheer cliffside? With the crocodile-rich river right behind her, keep your eyes peeled, for that fateful scene awaits us at the Mara River cliffs. But first, other gutsy contenders are stepping up. The entire pack moves as a unit. Today's mission is not only water, they must cross this river. A pack of 10 is a noisy pack. They have reached the stretch of river that must be crossed. The 2 boldest go first, but at that point, the river runs deep. The rest must find the shallowest crossing to avoid drowning. Success, but they are being followed. Nile crocodiles have a healthy habit, basking. After a long night in cold water, the body temperature of this ectotherm has dropped sharply. Solar radiation is here to warm the hunting machine. The predator is completely at ease. But the wild dog pack sees it as a threat, so they push the crocodile back to where they believe it belongs. The Nile crocodile is displeased, but under the harassment of the noisy, relentless pack, it returns to the water. The giant will watch the arrogant little soldiers closely. The leopard moves alone. In 95% of circumstances, this is its strength. The leopard is the only predator on the savannah capable of hauling prey, sometimes heavier than itself, 6 meters up an acacia tree. It exists at the boundary between day and night, occupying a space no other predator commands. A 38% success rate per hunt, the lowest among the large predators. But the leopard compensates with patience. It has been watching this waterhole since yesterday. Young wildebeest have chosen this as their drinking spot. The dense vegetation scattering their scent from the predator, or so they believe. Both food and water until the leopard claims its lunch. This female leopard has survived her 7th dry season. The entire territory is, in most respects, hers. But drinking water remains a game of chance. The Nile crocodile does not welcome strangers in its water. But the leopard is not easily frightened. She prepared to face the creature that most animals fear. The Nile crocodile is the dominant predator of nearly every river in Africa. Its most powerful battleground lies where millions of creatures converge in search of life, the Great Migration. With a powerful chest set against lean hindquarters, wildebeest carry the weathered bearing of the Savannah wanderer. The curved, sickle-shaped horns are the species' defining weapon, one that only fully mature males truly command. After a long and dusty journey, the vast herd has reached the fierce Mara River, its waters churned to a dark turbidity. Beneath the surface lies the domain of the Nile crocodile, the continent's most formidable silent killers. Reaching up to 6 meters in length and exceeding 1,000 kilograms, they are armored in iron hide and armed with rows of sharp teeth. At the bank, the lead individuals strain forward, watching, weighing the leap across the line between survival and death. The immense pressure from thousands massing behind drives an inexorable, reckless surge forward. When the tension reaches its breaking point, one individual commits and throws itself into the current. This act instantly shatters the suffocating stillness that had gripped the entire bank. What follows is a living torrent pouring into the river like an avalanche, generating frenzied chaos within the murky water. The entire space trembles with bellowing and white foam. A deadly vortex forms silently, signaling the intervention of those powerful jaws. One wildebeest is pulled beneath the cold river and quickly becomes the focus of the crocodile pack. The water turns red in one section of the river as the fortunate ones continue their frantic swim toward the far bank. Each migration season, an estimated 250,000 individuals perish from exhaustion or predation. Data from Oxford University in 2025 indicates the actual population now stands at approximately 600,000 individuals. This figure is substantially lower than the 1,300,000 previously estimated, raising significant concern about the future of the Great Migration. When the last figures disappear into the distance, the river returns to its cold, indifferent stillness. Beneath the surface, the Nile crocodiles descend to wait patiently for the next wave. Above, the dark shapes of vultures begin to circle, scanning the ground with razor-sharp vision. The great feast of carrion begins formally as these aerial cleaners land on the ground. Ahead of the survivors lies verdant grassland, but that too is the beginning of a new, brutal cycle of survival. There is no time to rest. Instinct drives them onward along the endless road. The great journey of the wildebeest has always been an epic of nature's most brutal verse. But those who remain on the land lead lives no less magnificent. The battles for survival unfold at the end of the dry season. In Masai Mara, every lion hunt now carries an additional weight. The rains will not return for another 6 weeks. In those 6 weeks, a lion pride loses about 3/4 of its hunts. A failure rate documented by the Lion Project Mara across decades. The difference between success and failure lies in whether the cubs waiting at home survive the dry season. Tonight, there is a particular female warrior. The Pretender. She is the second youngest member of a pride of 6. She has hunted alongside her sisters hundreds of times. Tonight is the first time she goes out solo, a decision driven by ambition. Her target is an old female zebra whose knee joints have lost their flexibility. But the zebra's hind kick travels with a force of 3,000 newtons. And according to a 2018 study, 62% of zebra hind kicks aim directly at the predator's head region. This is not random defense, this is targeted retaliation. The Pretender has never crossed paths with this particular zebra. She sees only a meal moving slowly, a complete information set by the hunting logic her mother taught her. Every hunting principle a lion has been taught points toward the same outcome. Attack fast, finish within 10 seconds. Her body no longer receiving full instructions from a control center that has just been impacted. The failure is undeniable. From this moment on, she is no longer a hunter. A lion with an injured jaw cannot bite. And a lion that cannot bite cannot share in the pride's meal. In the next 6 dry weeks, the pride will need to share food that is already scarce with a member who contributes nothing. Some will accept this, some will not. This is the moment when the lion's social structure reveals its absolute harshness. This is not a rare event on the Masai Mara plains. For every 6 male lions, one does not live past the age of 8. Because of injuries like these, inflicted by animals it once considered prey, this is the price for survival. Zebras do not only defend themselves against lions, they are also actively aggressive toward animals at the same prey level. When a species recognizes that it carries a defensive tool, capable of neutralizing even a lion, that recognition also shapes how it treats smaller animals, sharing the same water source. This is not self-defense, this is territorial assertion. And this is only the first chapter, because in another wild region, a similar prey is waiting, with the same defensive mechanism, but a much larger body. In the wild, there are encounters that neither species chooses. Wild horses are populations of horses that have been released back into freedom over many generations and no longer depend on humans. They significantly heavier than the African zebra with sturdier legs and a high defensive capacity against the predators. That defensive capacity is concentrated in a single body part, the hoof. A wild horse weighing 400 kilograms does not just kick harder than a 250-kilogram zebra in linear proportion. It kicks harder by an exponential factor. The lion is in the middle of a hunt. A chain of predatory decisions that are familiar and effective. The lion accustomed to attacking the hindquarters of fleeing prey, but this powerful counter kick has no available answer in a predatory brain that has been programmed for 40,000 years. Far to the north, North America has a similar story worth telling. The moose weighs 500 kilograms. In a water environment, the moose has the advantage of leg height. The bear must swim to follow. After about 30 minutes, the grizzly typically gives up from exhaustion. This is a phenomenon repeatedly confirmed by the rangers in Yellowstone, Glacier, and Grand Tetons. Wild moose cause more incidents involving humans than grizzly bears when measured by annual encounter rates. A moose's kick, according to wildlife biologists, can cause serious trauma even to a bear when the angle is right. On the dry, mopane savanna, some animals do not move with the herd. When a male buffalo passes the age of 12, his strength sometimes becomes a threat. To his own herd, he lives alone, or with a few other old males. South Africans give this species a nickname, Black Death. Cape buffalo are responsible for about 200 hunter fatalities each year across Africa, more than any other large mammal on the continent. Tonight, the dagger boy, no herd, no sentries. 200 meters away, a young male lion has been observing since the early afternoon. He is a 3-year-old male lion, in the most difficult transitional phase of a male lion's life. He has been expelled from his old pride upon reaching competition age, and he is building his own territory. To prove his ability to dominate, he needs a major prize. A solo dagger boy, in theory, is a perfect major prize. He has done the first part of the lesson his mother taught him correctly. Behind is the blind spot. This is the part where the young lion's lesson is incomplete. The 2 hind legs of an adult buffalo carry approximately 40% of its body mass. For a 700-kilogram dagger boy, that is approximately 280 kilograms of force that can be released in the opposite direction. For the buffalo, the matter ended at the moment of contact. A male lion with chest injuries cannot compete to build territory. He will need to find another area with a softer competitive structure, or he will not live long enough to try. Zebra, wild horse, and Cape buffalo, all 3 species use the same defensive mechanism, the hind kick, and all 3 force the same predator to pay a price. But what happens when the weapon is not 2 hind legs, but a single front leg as long as a person's height? The giraffe is known through images of grace, gentleness, But a front leg kick from an adult giraffe generates approximately 140 kilograms per square centimeter. This force is enough to cause serious injury even to an adult lion. A solo lion challenging an adult giraffe is a rare decision. A well-organized pride of 4 to 5 members will sometimes try. One starts the chase to push the giraffe toward favorable terrain, while the others wait at choke points along the retreat path. 5 meters, 1,000 kilograms. The giraffe has survived many encounters with lions in her lifetime. The chase begins as 2 lionesses charge from behind, a pace fast enough to maintain distance from the pride and slow enough to keep her balance for a defensive strike if needed. A young lion in the pride, one who trusts in his individual speed and strength, decides she can finish the chase early with a bold leap. The lion charges out of the pride's formation, and she enters the personal defense zone of an adult giraffe in waiting position. This is how nature teaches the lesson that lion parents cannot teach in full. A well-organized pride, an undisciplined member, a life with no second chance. But what happens when there is not just one hunter and 1.5 million wildebeest arrive like a wave? The fight continues into the dry season in the Okavango Delta. This is the warthog. The upper canines of an adult male warthog can reach 25 centimeters in length. In documented extreme cases, longer than 60 centimeters. The lower canines are shorter, but that is the lethal point. Each time a warthog opens its mouth to eat, to snort, to yawn, the lower canines rub against the upper canines. The animal sharpens its own defensive weapons through the act of breathing. According to wildlife researchers in the Okavango, an adult lioness living in a warthog-dense area takes about 10 to 15 warthogs each year. The problem is, of the 10 to 15 warthogs lion takes each year, the majority are juveniles or small females. A mature male warthog is a different number. The hunting reflex has no mechanism to halt mid-action. After that, she does not move again. The lioness cannot return to her pride before dawn. Her pride will never find her. The Okavango Delta erases traces faster than anyone knows. Finally, the fight takes us to an African river where 2 prehistoric species face each other. The Mara River. August. The southern crossing point. Returning to the Mara River. This time, the predator has been waiting underwater. Nile crocodiles live in this crossing all year round. In the other 10 months, they sustain themselves with large fish, water birds, and small animals coming to drink. In the 2 migration months, July and August, they need do nothing other than wait. The wildebeest and zebra herds will come. The great feast will cross the river. Some will not make it across. For the predators of Africa, no event provides as many comparable meals as the Great Migration. Nile crocodiles at Mara crossings have been recorded as being involved with thousands of migrating individuals each year. Not because of superior hunting skill, but because of the volume of opportunity that the migration provides. A Nile crocodile in the act of holding prey in its jaws is typically locked in position for several seconds. An evolutionary mechanism allowing the species to secure the prey before performing the death roll. During that lock period, the crocodile's 1,000-kilogram body, half submerged, becomes a shallow obstacle in the current. For a 300-kilogram zebra running from behind under the pressure of the herd behind it, that obstacle is no longer a predator. But this female zebra does not try to wrench her leg free. She does what perhaps her ancestors taught through a survival gene line. The kick lands on the weakest point of the crocodile's mouth structure. In the half-second when the reflex forces the crocodile to reassess his grip structure, the zebra pulls her leg free. The zebra will carry that wound for the rest of the migration season. But she has escaped. This is what the Great Migration teaches us about the concept of the apex predator. The Nile crocodile has a bite force of 350 kilograms per square centimeter, the strongest among living animals today. But they are not an obstacle from which there is no escape. The Nile crocodile can also be a stepping stone when the herd is large enough, when the pressure is high enough, and when an individual prey has enough will to attempt a second kick after being caught. Tonight, 5 battles, 5 underdogs, 5 kings have learned the same lesson. In the wild, the title apex predator is a contract with the prey. Not a guarantee, this is animal fight night when prey strike back. In a world of phantoms and deception, the spotted hyena has been imprisoned by prejudice for centuries. A cowardly scavenger, a thief in the dark? No. When the lens of science illuminates the land of death, their true nature emerges, overturning every old notion of power in the wild. The spotted hyena does not wait for death, they create it themselves. Scientific reality demonstrates this. These are top-tier hunters, directly bringing down up to 95% of their food. As a cursorial predator, an endurance hunter, they operate with an iron heart, constituting up to 1% of body mass, twice the proportion found in a lion. This superior respiratory system allows them to maintain a relentless pursuit across many kilometers of savannah. With a hunting success rate reaching the unthinkable level of 92%, they are the true predators of the plains. And that is bad news for this wildebeest. In panic, it chooses to take refuge in a street and predators on the planet. The strength of hyenas does not come from spontaneity. It is operated under a rigorous matriarchal social structure. An empire shaped by unique biological transformations, abnormally high androgen concentration, right from the embryonic stage. The aggression of females is forged from the intrauterine environment itself. It molds warriors with testosterone levels exceeding those of males. A hyena clan is led by an experienced matriarch, holding the survival memory and tactics of the entire collective, with a clear and unchanging social hierarchy. In this kingdom, power is an inherited legacy. The leader's offspring automatically claim the noble rank of their mother, from birth establishing dominant status over other members of the clan as long as they are female. In contrast, the males have very little status in the clan, frequently forced to accept the lowest position in eating rituals and social interactions. The dominance of the matriarchs does not stop at internal management. It is the engine driving the entire system of asserting sovereignty across the savannah. Tails raised upright, a biological signal asserting power and excitement when an unfamiliar olfactory signature is detected in the space. A rival pack has just trespassed on the territory. In savannah confrontations, females are always the vanguard force. A male black-backed jackal has fallen into the daughter matriarch's sights. This is not a hunt. The hyena is performing an act of interspecific exploitation. Jackals are the most skilled at locating fawns. By silently shadowing, the hyena turns the jackal into a biological radar, waiting for the right moment to seize the prize from the opponent's cunning. Meanwhile, the male jackal's mate faces a real nightmare when the hyena matriarch has discovered their den. In the natural world, compassion is a luxury that does not exist in the survival equation. Intra-guild predation, eliminating the offspring of competing rivals, is an ecological strategy to protect future resources for the clan. The mother jackal tries to distract. However, the architecture of nature has become the final shield. The den entrance is too narrow for the predator's massive size. The hyena clan returns to the original plan, abandoning an unfeasible target. To preserve energy for larger hunts, that is kleptoparasitism. Thanks to the advantage in body size, the contest ends quickly. The male jackal must accept the leftover scraps from his own efforts, but at least his pups are safe. The fortunate luck of the jackal pups, or the leftover scraps from the defeated, are not enough to relieve the physiological pressure weighing on the entire clan. They need more to fill their stomachs. And when the first sounds of the wildebeest and zebra herds echo from the horizon, it is the signal heralding the return of the massive protein source on the savannah. However, in a society driven by extreme hunger, patience becomes a luxury. A few young members, lacking the guidance of the matriarch or the experienced eldest daughter, decided to carry out an impromptu hunt. Lacking tactical coordination and the necessary composure, their attack becomes chaotic. The wildebeest easily decode the clumsy attack direction and escape, leaving the inexperienced hunters in futile energy expenditure. A few hours later, the moment of the true masters has arrived. With a superior night vision system, they quickly locate a solitary wildebeest. This is an ideal target, an exhausted being after a long migration journey, with legs grown heavy from the accumulation of lactic acid. In a desperate effort to find safety, the wildebeest mistakenly believes the water will be the barrier blocking the enemy, but in reality, it is trapping itself in a biological snare. The water resistance neutralizes the prey's burst speed, while the matriarch and her daughter establish a landscape of fear right on the bank. Their relentless... The cries of the prey echo for many kilometers, serving as a signal to summon the entire clan. Once again, the matriarch confirms her role as the irreplaceable cornerstone of the pack. Her experience is the only line between survival and ruin, a legacy of power that will continue to be passed down to her eldest daughter before the formal succession to this matriarchal kingdom. Dawn at the Masai Mara marks the fragile boundary between life and death, where every breath is stalked. Just one small mistake is enough to end everything on the burning plains of Kenya. Among the golden ocean of grass, a solitary lioness is beginning to write the first chapter of a legend. A solitary traveler crossing endless fields where the wind carries the moisture of the Mother Earth and the buzzing sound of insects. Lacking territory and companions, this lioness relies only on the survival instinct refined through millions of years of evolution. Fate cannot subdue the will of the lone wanderer as she gradually finds kindred spirits adrift on the savannah. Thanks to keen vision and natural attraction, the future leader begins to gather young lionesses under her command. The number of members grows from 3 to 5 and reaches 7 individuals, laying the foundation for a new empire amid the open grassland. With unyielding determination, a superior individual naturally leads a collective that did not gather merely by chance. This army operates as a perfect survival machine, where the power of life and death lies entirely in the hands of the female leader. Under the slanting evening sun, the waves of golden grass conceal the deadly steps of the lion pride advancing. Each movement reaches absolute precision as the main hunters begin to deploy their formation. Communicating through eye contact and body language, these warriors execute a coordinated plan with no gaps. The leader holds the center, flanked on both sides by guardians in the deadliest ambush formation in the wild. Not far away, a herd of zebras still grazes peacefully, completely unaware of the silent shadows narrowing the distance. Pressing in through low bushes, 3 lionesses lock onto the target with cold yellow eyes. The distance shortens to less than 30 meters, while the zebra herd is still entirely paralyzed by the impending danger. When the signal is given, the leader explodes with terrifying speed, directly attacking the unfortunate prey. The thunderous roar tears through the air, pushing the zebra herd into a vortex of extreme panic. One individual collapses, marking the brutal first victory of the young coalition. However, this is just the beginning, as the success rate of lion hunts typically ranges from 25 to 30%. Each failure, accounting for 3/4 of attack attempts, becomes a costly lesson for the leader to master the harsh land. The roar of this species can carry up to 8 kilometers, a proud declaration of sovereignty sent to the entire savannah. Yet the wild world still holds other formidable rivals waiting for this new ruler. Under the fiery sunset, a dark mass of muscle moves majestically. Weighing nearly 900 kilograms with armored skin, this creature possesses curved horns resembling the helmet of an ancient warrior. That is the buffalo, the most formidable giant on the savannah, with a surprising agility hidden behind a stubborn appearance. The dark eyes constantly scan the space, missing no small movement from lurking assassins. High vigilance is the survival key of this species through millions of years of history. They form impregnable blocks of strength by maintaining herd life from a few dozen to hundreds of individuals. Although unity is the core strength, the desire for power still always burns within the herd. Under the burning twilight sky, two giant males advance toward each other with a clear intent of dominance. The blazing eyes and confronting horns signal an uncompromising showdown about to begin. The sound of clashing iron horns echoes throughout the plain like sledgehammer blows. Each charge carries the staggering momentum of a 900-kilogram body, making the ground tremble and red dust billow. The two duelists stagger back, then continue lunging at each other, turning the contest into a test of the limits of both physical strength and will. Whoever hesitates first will immediately lose their position and must accept a humiliating defeat. We have just witnessed the rawest glimpses of the paradoxical struggle for survival between predator and prey on the savannah. Which animal in today's episode completely opened your eyes to the wild? Was it the wildebeest's solitary decision to stand its ground, or the multi-layered defense from a buffalo family? Leave your experience in the comments. Your insight is the tribute these species deserve from those who witness them. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to join me on my upcoming field trips, where we will continue to decode the most mysterious secrets of survival. And if you want to discover more about other wildlife, keep exploring at Win or Die, full episode. Chakra, Deadliest Battles for Survival, or Lion Attack, the Mapago, Battle for Survival.